In the modern Muslim mind, the theory of evolution is almost always treated as an enemy of Islam. For most scholars and Muslims alike, the discussion begins and ends with the claim, humans came from apes. That's kufr. And they're right. If someone believes humans evolved from animals and denies the direct creation of Adam by Allah, that does contradict the Qur'an and the foundations of Islamic Aqidah. But that's not the full picture. What's happened is something dangerous. We've taken apism, the belief that humans evolved from apes, and blurred it together with evolution as a scientific study that investigates how animals adapt, diversify, and branch out over time. Because of that blur, we've ended up rejecting the entire concept of evolution, even where the Qur'an itself does not reject it, and in some cases, even aligns with it. This video is about clarifying that line. What does the Qur'an say? What does evolution really mean? And how do we see it in the lens of Islam, not just in protecting Aqidah, but also in engaging with truth, creation, and nature as Allah told us to? Part 1. What the Qur'an actually says about creation of life. Let's begin with the primary source of all belief in Islam, the Qur'an. The Qur'an gives us a very specific origin point for all living creatures, and it is not dust or clay or fire. Those are for humans and jinn. For all living creatures, Allah gives one starting element, water. Surah An-Nur, verse 45. And Allah has created every living creature from water. Some of them crawl on their bellies, some walk on 2 legs, and some on 4. Allah creates what He wills. Indeed, Allah is capable over all things. This verse is crucial. It gives 4 powerful insights about non-human life. 1. All life comes from water, not multiple elements, a single shared origin. 2. There are multiple forms of mobility. Some crawl, some walk upright, some walk on 4. 3. Allah didn't mention He created each species individually in its final form, which means the mechanism is left open. 4. He is capable over all things. Whether the creation is instant or gradual, both are within Allah's power. Allah didn't strictly say He created dogs, cats, elephants, ants, lions, and deer as separate, fully formed species from the beginning of time and that they can't diversify in any way or form. Instead, we're given a common origin. We see diversity within the same species, and they are all designed by our divine Creator. That's why it is not kufr to believe in the possibility of animals changing form or having diverse appearances within the same species, and we do see this in real life. And this is deeply consistent with evolution in the animal kingdom, not apism, not atheism, but the biological process itself. Qur'anic distinction between human and animal creation. To deny that all life began from water would be to deny the explicit statement of the Qur'an, which would make a person a kafir. Because of the fact that life was created in water, we're left with 2 options to interpret the process. 1. Allah made every species fully formed in the water, with no transition or change in idea, with no textual support. In this interpretation, we assume Allah created every animal fully formed inside the ocean, and one day, a dog, lion, elephant, horse, cat, and every animal just walked out of the ocean, which has no textual evidence. 2. Allah created them through a process where crawling, walking, and flying species branched out and diversified by His command. This perfectly aligns with the way Allah described most creation, like how He created the earth in 6 days, the sky, and how He formed the earth. So the Quranic language directly supports the second view when we observe how Allah created most things, with some exceptions, like the case of Adam, which was exclusive to Him. Allah described creating animals and other life in a completely different process, and that distinction matters. Because Allah didn't just tell us how He created life, He also separated human creation from the rest of life. The Quran gives us 2 distinct accounts. 1. Every living thing was created from water, a shared earth-originated beginning. 2. Adam, the first human, was created from clay, not on earth, but in paradise. and we created man from sounding clay, from black mud molded into shape. Qur'an 15:26. Then we said, O Adam, dwell, you and your wife, in paradise. Qur'an 2:35. And later, after they ate the forbidden fruit, Allah said, we said, go down from it, all of you. Qur'an 2:38. This means Adam and his wife were not created on earth, but were formed elsewhere and sent down. So even though humans and animals share similar design, blood, flesh, bone, digestion, and locomotion, the origin is different. One life was built from within earth, and the other, Adam, was created in Jannah and then placed upon earth. Almost like a new life fully mirroring the design of others, yet distinct in source. Part 2. What evolution actually claims without the ideology. Let's separate two things that are usually lumped together. Apism, the theoretical belief that humans came from apes and are just evolved apes with complex brains, and that all life came from just random processes without any creator. This is kufr. Evolution, the biological observation that species can change over time, branch out from common ancestors, and adapt to environments due to mechanisms like natural selection. If you remove the assumption that this process is random or unguided, then you can see it as Allah designing this system of adaptation and branching from the physical evidences of evolution. The possibility of evolution is not in conflict with Islamic thought. Just like rain, we know it falls through physical processes. And Allah says in the Qur'an, and it is Allah who sends down rain from the sky. And when we look at how it's done, we see a whole system. The rain cycle and sequence from evaporation, condensation, wind, cloud formation, and release. Who made this system? Allah did. Does that make us think He is not in control of the process? No, because He's the one who created and operates that system to begin with. And He even told us to observe how He created everything. If He created everything without any trace, then how can we observe? And if we go by the belief that evolution is false, which fundamentally depends on the process of observing creation, then we are rejecting the thing Allah suggested we do, without any alternative realistic evidence-based solution, neither from the Qur'an, Hadith, nor from real visible evidence. That falls under ignorance. That's why the possibility of an evolutionary approach aligns perfectly with how the Qur'an describes divine processes like the earth was created in phases. The human embryo develops stage by stage, from a clot to a lump to bones, then flesh. So if Allah's other acts unfold through ordered systems, what's so unacceptable about considering the possibility with animal development, even when the Qur'an doesn't reject the evolutionary conclusion? And the evolution theory's origin of life ends up with the same origin of life stated in the Qur'an, water. And Allah told us to think about creation and observe it. Say, travel throughout the land and see how He originated the creation, then Allah will bring it into being one more time. Surely Allah is most capable of everything. Qur'an 29:20. Beginning doesn't imply immediate completion. It implies origin and leaves the mechanism to divine wisdom. Part 3. Why scholars reject evolution and why that rejection is often misplaced. The reason most Islamic scholars reject evolution has very little to do with what the Qur'an says. It's mostly because of the modern Western presentation of the theory. Here's why. 1. Apism has hijacked evolution. Evolution is often taught as atheism in disguise, a way to erase God. So, naturally, scholars react. 2. They fear the human link. Since the theory suggests humans share a common ancestor with apes, scholars throw the whole thing out, even the parts about animals. 3. Lack of scientific training. Most scholars are trained in fiqh, hadith, and Arabic, not genetics, biology, or paleontology. So they either avoid the topic or reject it based on ideology. Also a common question. If evolution was true, Why didn't classical Islamic scholars talk about it? Simple. It wasn't known. Evolution theory didn't even exist 1,000 years ago. And even when it wasn't known, Allah gave us clues about it, which tell us the process. Instead of digging into it, we ended up rejecting those who tried to dig and didn't even try to explore it in an Islamic lens. This has led to a damaging result. We treat all of evolution as kufr, even when parts of it clearly align with the Qur'an. Part 4. Why accepting animal evolution is not deviant, but rather precise. Let's be clear on what Islam requires us to believe and where it leaves space. Origin of life. The required belief in Islam. Allah created all life from water. Process. The required belief in Islam. Creation can be either instant or gradual. Both are possible. Human origin. The required belief in Islam. Adam was created directly by Allah, not through evolution from any animal. As long as someone believes that Allah is the creator and originator of all life, that Adam is specially created, and that everything in creation is guided, not random, then accepting the possibility of evolution among animals is not a kufr. The Qur'an doesn't describe animal creation in full detail, but it does say they came from water. It does describe their diversity, and it does not condemn change over time. And Allah says, "We created every living thing from water." Quran 21:30. He creates what He wills. Quran 24:45. What stops us to think species cannot have emerged through Allah's gradual design? Rejecting apism is necessary. Rejecting belief in random mutation is necessary. But rejecting the idea that species may have diversified from each other by Allah's will is not necessary. We are not required to say Allah created every individual animal species from totally separate origin, and none of them share any common ancestry, as this is said nowhere in the Quran or any authentic source. What we are required to say that Allah is the one who creates by whatever means He chooses. Evolution is only a threat when we don't understand the full picture of it and when it's rejecting the word of Allah.